Welcome to the First Party Pod. We are your hosts, Gloria.
I'm Rio.
In this episode, we have our very first guest, and I'm so excited. It's Alan Lewis from Amazon. I've been working with you for about, I think, four or
I think
5 years.
I think about 5 years.
That's crazy. Yeah, and you were the first person I ever talked to about AMC. And I learned so much from you about AMC, so I'm so excited for you to be here. Welcome.
Thank you for the invite.
Yeah.
Come here full circle, huh?
Yeah,
Love it.
exactly.
Well, and I learned a lot from you too, as we learned from a lot of our customers, especially those that were early on when we were building AMC.
Yeah. I guess to start off, I think that our listeners would love to learn a little bit about you and your background. Do you want to share your background and how you got to Amazon?
Yeah, so I've worked in tech for coming up on 25 years across a number of different industries. I grew up in and worked in the Bay Area for the first like 16, 17 years of my career, and then moved out to Colorado. And moved because I knew that there was a pretty good sized tech scene here, and so there was enough companies across different industries where I could plan something. But just happened to land at Amazon in early 2019. I was interviewing in 2018, and
This is Amazon ads.
within Amazon Ads, which is we have an office in Boulder, and that's where a lot of the hiring was then, and so that just happens to be where I landed. I knew Amazon as a customer largely because I worked at one of the companies I worked at for a long time is Realtor.com, and I was the principal architect for them moving to the cloud, and so I engaged a lot with AWS as a customer, in even going out to Seattle for an executive briefing there, and so I knew Amazon as a company. I knew a lot of people who worked there. I liked the culture, but I knew it from the outside. So that was my frame of reference coming in, was knowing Amazon, the culture. I didn't know much of anything about ads. I knew tech. And so that was really what I focused on coming in was, okay, that's what I know, but I have a lot to learn about ads. And 6 years in now, I still have a lot to learn about ads. It's a huge space to learn.
Yeah, I think it's interesting too. A lot of people I think outside of the industry might not realize that like Amazon's this big company. You've got the e-commerce business, you've got the AWS, the cloud hosting business, and you've got this ads business, right?
Yeah.
Which are all work together, but are kind of separate, right? Different cultures.
There's a lot shared in common, like the leadership principles, things that make Amazon Amazon for sure.
Pure FAQs.
Oh, absolutely. Yes, I just like, after this podcast, I need to go home and jump on a peer FAQ call. So there are some things, big things that are shared in common. But yeah, the different businesses like ads, like AWS, like retail, there's so many different dynamics that make the nature of the business. You have to be different. Like AWS is all about, data centers and super focus on efficiency and on uptime and so on. Not that those things aren't important within ads, but like the biggest surprise for me about the business was just how complex it was in terms of how many kinds of customers there are. Like it goes back into decades past the history, which is still relevant today about like how different agencies were formed and why they are how they are. It all is super interesting, and it makes for a lot of it creates a lot of the complexity that in order to be effective, you need to learn and deal with to understand who those customers are and what they need.
So you were interviewing, and was it for the clean room product?
Didn't know it at the time. We just had a name and a PRFAQ, and that was about it when I was interviewing. The other role that I was interviewing for at Amazon was to lead their incrementality product. Because I listened to your episode last week. I'm happy with the role that I picked. I ended up getting an offer to join either of those two teams.
Oh, great.
I'm a big believer in luck. I think that matters a lot, and I was very lucky in having that opportunity. It's gone pretty well.
You must interview pretty well too.
Well enough.
So when the clean room kind of product, when you read about it, what sparked you to think, oh, this is going to be successful?
What struck me, what told me that that it was interesting, and that I thought it was something that had a chance of resonating with some customers, is the values that it came from, the focus, the genuine focus on privacy, on trying to not just work within a system and assume like, oh yeah, there's all those privacy problems that we have to deal with. It's like, no, we're going to keep our customers' data safe.
Mhm.
Period. Within that, okay, now how do we approach solving problems for our advertisers? and for those customers and how they need certain things to run their business and to be more efficient and find opportunity that they couldn't find. So it's coming from that point of view that really resonated with me.
This must have been right after, like, shortly after GDPR, like right around
Yeah.
CCPA.
Yeah, those, and when I was interviewing, I did research and was reading stuff. I knew somewhat about GDPR just from the broader tech perspective. There was a lot of, content coming out, a lot of, points of view about, the changing regulatory landscape and different norms around privacy. And still today, it's dynamics are changing. It's not at all static.
I'm interested to hear your opinion on the rise of clean rooms. So, do you think it was because of the deprecation of the third party cookie that started this, or did you think that the industry would have gone this way no matter what?
I can speak with the most confidence about what I saw at Amazon,
Mhm.
and I picked up some other things about the broader industry. I do think that cookies going away specifically certainly prompted some level of interest, of investment by companies, both media buyers and agencies and other ad tech firms around investing in alternatives. And so there's certainly a factor for Amazon. It really wasn't the reason. It was more of, okay, with our privacy promise that we have in place, that was already a given, a constraint, one that we, had as aligned with our broader principles.
Mhm.
And so any product or feature that involved, taking signals from Amazon and providing access to those had to be privacy safe.
Mhm.
And the emergence of clean rooms as a concept that was then put into practice not long before we started working on AMC was a way to solve problems for our customers that we didn't have a way to solve before.
Mhm.
And those problems exist. I think no matter whether cookies are fully, third party cookies are out there and widely used or not.
Right.
So I guess now we're 5, 6, 7 years into the clean room era, right?
Yeah.
The era of more privacy safe, privacy enhancing technologies, right? This may sound like a stupid question, but do you consider, with some hindsight, do you consider clean rooms now to be a product or a feature? Because I've heard both arguments. And wondering how you
I
react to that.
I think both. Like there are products that are themselves clean rooms, which I don't think there's any precise definition. I think there's still some variance there, and that is probably more prevalent today than I expect it will be a few years down the road. I often draw comparisons or make comparisons with the growth of relational databases. I'm into like the history of software, so go back into like the 80s, 70s, 60s, and when relational databases formed as an industry, there were at the start just products that you would use that were themselves databases. But over time, as those became more prevalent, there was a lot of products built on top of relational databases, like Salesforce.com is built on top of relational databases. But that's not the point. So the point is the product that they've put forth using that capability. I think we'll see much more of that with clean rooms where something like AMC and somebody going in like you do, Gloria, into writing queries of like, yeah, you're using the clean room.
Yeah.
But we also, like with AMC, have started to build and release things that are built on top of it.
Mhm.
So if you're just using an AMC solution, are you using the clean room or are you using really a feature?
That's interesting. So it's more the use cases and let's say the front end, that high level experience there you build so people can actually interact with it, and that's the capability beneath it is which is
It
part of the
is the
is
clean room is that enabler. Yeah.
what do you think is driving adoption? Like, is it privacy? Is it measurement? I mean,
I think it's both those things. And with AMC, as I said, we wouldn't put forth the product unless we had a way to ensure the privacy of the signals within it. I think that is definitely formed some of the demand from customers of coming to a product that shares their values around privacy. But there's also it like happens to be a kind of product like so ours is it's a kind of data access product. And so the features that we have, like SQL language support, that itself is very powerful and enables certain use cases that really aren't possible otherwise. And so there's the level of customization for use cases, and for us, it's around advertising and use cases like measurement and creating audiences and doing other analytics to find patterns and whatnot that are really just analytics problems or data access problems. And there it's more about the capabilities of the product and how well they fit with exposing or making possible those kinds of use cases. And then for AMC, the last factor that really matters here is, well, what signals do you have within there? And AMC as a product comes with a lot of stuff built in. It's not the case like a lot of clean room products that I've seen that I know about, they provide the infrastructure, they provide the capability. And then this party has to bring in their signals, this other party has to bring in theirs. That takes a lot of work, it takes a lot of effort. And sometimes the value that you can get from that is so high and so compelling that people will take on that effort.
I'm also interested to know from a competition landscape, I have seen like Amazon's clean room is what everyone talks about. It's so accessible. You can do, again, as you said, you can do so many things with it. It's so customizable, and now you can self-serve. But when I'm looking for other clean rooms, it's hard to find one. I know competitors have said, "Hey, we're working on it. We're working on it." Why don't you think other companies have be been able to create a clean room like Amazon's? Is it the infrastructure? Is it just the time investment? Is it the return that they don't see?
It's probably a mix of all those factors. As I mentioned, I worked across different industries within tech. I've worked for a couple different like enterprise software companies, and I had those frustrations when I was in. That was like the first company I worked for that had built an enterprise software product. I wanted everybody to be able to at least try the product, and and it was completely sales driven. You had to talk to a salesperson to get access to a product. That's still the model today for a lot of enterprise tools off SaaS. I mean, some things have changed. You can usually or often like try something out on the web. When you have a fundamentally a sales driven model, as a lot of these products do, it's tough to really change that. I think we'll see more happen over time, or I hope we do, where there's a more products get to a point of maturity where that's not their only growth model is being driven through enterprise sales. You know, you can have something that can be fully self-service and you can at least get some, sense of what a product can do to at least like have some capabilities. And then maybe there's some enterprise, thing on top of that. This is just my read on the overall market. With AMC, we're part of Amazon ads. And so it's a Amazon ads itself is pretty darn accessible.
Yeah.
You can pretty much anybody can sell on Amazon and then can buy ads with, very little budget needed to help
Yeah.
grow their business. And then as you get larger, then more sophisticated tools like AMC, like the great things our partners build, become more, they can fill certain needs that you have as you grow or if you want to grow.
Let's talk data collaboration. I'm just curious, like, what are you seeing in terms of, you probably can't give exact numbers, but like, is there, in terms of uploading first party data, is that happening a lot?
We saw an inflection point about 2.5 years ago.
Okay.
So the product, like the original PRFAQ, which was written in 2018, focused almost exclusively on the multi-party data collaboration, the use cases. That was sort of what was everybody's understanding of what a clean room was for, what it was good for, and that's still the case today largely. What was underappreciated at that time was, well, how much utility there is in the Amazon provided signals. So much so that we had the initial growth of the product without even having the capability to bring in your own signals. We pushed back the launch of those features, in fact, because of how much growth we were having just with Amazon signals, and only released the first version of that in the summer of 2021. It took about a year for us to see the evidence of real sustained scaled usage of that capability. And I think there's some reasons why it's like, okay, we had to make some enhancements to cover some key pain points. But really, I think the biggest factor is just it took time for people to learn how to do it, to get the approvals, to get the comfort with doing it at all.
Yeah.
And I think that's still where a lot of customers are at today is It's not something we can make the ability to do it dead simple. And it still requires buy-in. It requires like work that somebody has to do on their side to get data into a certain format or to, get the approvals from whoever they need to do it, or simply to just gain the trust that comes with time with whatever tools they're using, that their data is properly protected as it needs to be.
So it sounds like a lot of it, like things preventing more brands from uploading first party data. They're not even technical. I mean, maybe
Yeah.
some of them are, but a lot of them are more organizational,
That's
governance, change management, privacy, all that stuff.
totally. That's so that was one of the experiences that I had with respect to data collaboration when I was at Realtor.com. I was managing the personalization team. So it's one of the product teams within Realtor.com. It's a consumer real estate space. And this is back in like this, 10, 11 years ago, um, that the company for the first time made a real big investment in marketing. We had, for a couple years, a big television campaign, paid, Elizabeth Banks to as the spokesperson. The commercials were really good, like, the ads were really good. There was some digital component back then. I don't remember, like, what specific, formats were used, but I do know because I was managing that team, that there were requests from the marketing team, like, "Oh, hey, we wanna use, like, our personal data, like, people that,
Mhm.
like, sign up and
Mhm.
submit leads and, like, save homes." Like, these are people, like, our high engagement users. We want to, like, merge that into our marketing and understand, like, how people are flowing through. And it was so organizationally tough
Hmm.
to even, like, they were speaking, like, a different language. Like, we didn't, like, so you just making that connection across departments
Wow.
was insurmountable. I mean, there was other things that kept it from happening, but that mismatch just within the org was enough to really make that not possible.
And that's a digital first organization,
It,
right? You can imagine for like a legacy company too, right? I
yeah,
mean,
exactly. So it was a tech company, the sort of organization that should have been able to overcome those challenges, and they couldn't.
Amazon has put a lot of time and effort into making it easier to collaborate your first party data. Let's say there's CDB connectors, super easy. First party upload, of course, and then now AWS clean rooms.
Yep.
So many different ways. Is there still a push to try and try again to get people to collaborate their first party data? Or even why does Amazon want so badly for customers to collaborate their data?
First, we're seeing significant growth.
Yeah.
So there's all positive signs there, especially when you look over, a long time horizon. It's not just about what's happened this quarter.
Mhm.
It's about what's happened over the last couple of years and what are the dynamics. We're starting to see certain seasonality dynamics,
Mm.
which you wouldn't know until you look that far back across different industries, across different categories,
Mhm.
even across like typical budgeting cycles. Like, when do people get their funding and kick off their project and get things going? Like, we're seeing those dynamics
Mhm.
play out. So the signs are positive there. But I mean, with anything, given it takes time, it's like how do you know whether to invest in that?
Yeah.
I think fundamentally, we absolutely know that our customers, our advertising customers, we can do better for them where in so many ways, if their signals are available within Amazon systems,
Mhm.
both within AMC and then depending on the use case within other systems too, so that we can like optimize things on their behalf,
Mhm.
or we can offer them better measurement capabilities that rely on certain signals that we wouldn't have otherwise.
For sure.
And depending on the sensitivity of those things or the volume of the data sets or other dynamics, that's what creates the need for a lot of the different kinds of ways to get data in, like the CDP connectors. Like, we have all our data there. I don't want to do much, if any, more work. Can
Yeah.
can you just have a capability where I can effectively click a button and have it transfer over? It makes total sense.
Yeah.
So that's what motivates a lot of the our approach, which is multifaceted. There's not just one and only one way in because the customer needs are so varied.
it's interesting you say that. I mean, I like that call out about there being different ways. I mean, I think many people don't realize this, that you can get data up, you can do one-time data upload, you can automate that. You can use CAPI, the secure pixel, there's CDP connectors you built. I mean, what do you think is going to be the future? Will it be a mix? Is there a specific one you think is going to dominate over time?
I'd have to I think it will be a mix, and I have to draw from, like, just looking at broader, like, what typically happens in tech. Easy usually wins in terms of, like, the amount of customer adoption, but I don't think we can only look at, like, what's gonna be easiest as necessarily being the same as what's the most valuable. Like, okay, those most valuable data sets, whatever they are, an organization is most likely intentionally not going to make it easy for people within that company to make use of that data for given purposes. So we can't just look at, oh, well, this thing could go and it could transfer this data, without you having to do any work at all. That rightly is seen as a risk within certain kinds of organizations. So I think we have to be careful about looking at what does success look like here? How do we measure what we think has won out or is really dominating? That's the sort of caution that I have about trying to be too jump to conclusions too fast about, "Oh, yeah, this is this kind of problem, and so a solution is gonna end up looking like this."
It's interesting what you said before about resistance to change. Like conversion API, I mean, should be the easiest, right? In theory, right? But
Yeah, and there's industry sort of norms that have come around. Everybody calls the same thing. It's like, "Do you have a CAPI?" It's like that's enough of a pseudo standard now, which has helped with adoption there. I think that there is like, it's a well-known problem sort of, and so there's no reason to do things that differently there.
Just to for all the brands out there, just to set it straight, I think I can't count on my hands how many times I've heard, "If I collaborate my first party data, Amazon has my data, and they're gonna use it." Can you clarify for the audience in what way I mean, how privacy friendly is collaborating your data, and in what way would Amazon, quote, unquote, "use their data"?
We don't.
Yeah,
And it's not just me saying that makes it true.
yeah.
There's both technology that makes that true as well as, our terms.
Mhm.
I had a hand in writing our terms and conditions, which I felt was and I'm glad I did that. I think that's a very important piece of establishing what the trust relationship is, and it lays out in pretty plain language for terms and conditions, as and compared with most, what we are constraining ourselves from doing
Mhm.
with that signal. And the only thing that we use it for, and it's only where the technology allows us, is to help make sure the experience is functioning
Mhm.
for you.
Mm.
The technology means are complex and emerging, and I think they're getting better and better at having different kinds of protections. But that's what makes a clean room that kind of product is that it has built in at its core different means to protect data so that it cannot be sent out of a clean room.
Yeah.
That you have visibility into what's going on within there. That you have protection so that you can't uh, understand information about individual people
Yeah,
where the data is about people.
absolutely.
and I've heard that a lot too, Gloria, where brands will say, "Well, why would we do this? I'm not giving Amazon our data." Well, what would they do with it? I mean, why would Amazon really need it? I think it's another story, but I think having the terms and conditions spelled out's helpful. You send that in, they review it, but it's the process, right? I have seen more comfort in understanding. Okay, we know what clean rooms are. We know what CAPI is. Like generally, like they were talking to brands. I think they it's not like 3 or 4 years ago. Like
Oh, yeah.
legal didn't know what clean rooms were.
Yeah.
InfoSec didn't know. IT didn't know. Privacy. Like you had all these teams needed to be informed. I think it's getting better.
And probably the biggest point here, the most important part is it's not just about the technology. It's about the business practice and laying that out. And then the third pillar is it's about trust.
Mhm.
I mean, fundamentally, like this is anybody that is dealing with clean rooms is dealing with trust as an important element. That's built up over time. It's built up through acting as you say you will act in ways that conform with your stated values. Those all those factors I think are necessary. It's not just about trust, it's about the tech. It's not just about tech, it's about all three of these things.
It's interesting too. Like some of these organizations will complain about why did we give Amazon our data? back in the day with direct mail, they would send their mail files to letter shops all the time, right? I mean, it's like, which, not, they email them or whatever, or probably not very privacy. So I just find it's interesting, right?
Yeah. Yeah. Let's go from first party collaboration to third party collaboration. Now, I think there's a lot more third party collaborations happening. For instance, from certain supply sources. So, let's say a TV publisher. What excites you about this trajectory?
What excites me is simply that it's happening, and I think it
Mhm.
can happen a lot more. I think that's a big area of growth in terms of capabilities and use cases enabled by both. I think just the growth of the category and people's familiarity with it. So it makes sense to start with things that require fewer parties or that are simpler, and just introducing another party, a third party, can increase the complexity. But with customers seeing the value
Mhm.
of doing things with just, with me and a first party, bringing another party in, they already know the value, or it's real for them. And so I think that that can help get over those hurdles of, well, it'll take some effort at times, and whether that's, getting contractual agreements or becoming familiar with a different tool set, or a different way of working, that we'll get over that hump.
Can you give an example of how a brand could use a third party, let's say, supply source for measurement?
This might be a I think it's a good example to illustrate
Mhm.
here. So
Yeah.
let's say that you had a product that was very seasonal. It like there's pest control products, let's say. Here in Colorado, like, we're coming up on pest control season.
See that?
I know this firsthand. And so there are I know from just anecdotes that there are a lot of, like, weather dynamics
Mm.
that affect customer demand for things like, pest control, or products that are very seasonally specific.
Mhm.
Having third party weather data
Mm.
might make a lot of sense for certain media buyers
Mhm.
in order to understand uh, what both past weather behaviors did in terms of effects on product demand,
Mm.
on advertising dynamics, things like that. And it might help you both understand past behaviors and even make adjustments currently if you have those signals coming in from a third party
Mhm.
to give you direct knowledge of both current and historical weather patterns.
Yeah.
That's an example I like because it's easier to understand. Everybody knows and experiences the weather, but that same concept I think can apply across all sorts of different kinds of third party data providers to satisfy all sorts of needs.
I would love to move on to the topic of AI, one of our favorite topics of this podcast, but you released the AI-powered audience creation, so text to SQL
Yeah.
creation works really well, I have to say. I
Right.
tested it out many times. I actually used it because I was stumped on a query in my query editor, and I actually went to the text to SQL to see if I could fix my problem, and it did.
That's great to hear. I'll
Amazing,
let the PM
right?
know that
Yeah.
it's a glorious
Please do.
fruit.
Yes, it is, very much. In your trajectory or your roadmap, do you see AI becoming bigger part of AMC in the future, and what was your learning of implementing this feature?
It's obvious, why AI is on everyone's mind,
Mhm.
and I'm interested in it. It's sort of obvious with, like, what these capabilities that have come out over the past couple years give us.
Mhm.
Our approach to this feature within AMC, I think, is pretty consistent with our approach to products in general, which is not it's not about the tech. It's about how we can solve customer problems. It's taken, like, we have to reorient as people building the products, like, our own understanding of what the capabilities are, so that we don't overlook solutions to problems that were really not s-
Mm.
possible before,
Yeah.
or kinds of problems that we really just couldn't even deal with before.
Right.
Like, we had to always think in terms of, okay, how do we make a product easy to use by forcing the user to learn as little as possible?
Yeah.
It's a different model of, like, we'll have the customer learn nothing
Yeah.
effectively,
Yeah.
and how much that can unlock.
Mhm.
We really honed in on, okay, what are real specific customer problems that exist? One of them within AMC is what I call the blank page problem.
Mhm. Yeah.
It's like you come to the product and you get to the query editor and it's ready to go. It's, okay, what do I do? there's things we've invested in, like templates to help and give starting points.
For sure.
I want to have ways for customers to explore
Yeah.
and really see what's possible within a product that is designed for all sorts of customization.
Mhm.
If we only had templates, I think that really does customers a disservice because it's a general purpose tool.
Mm.
So we started with audiences. That's what we've
Yep.
released and what we've announced because that's one of the problems people have is what kinds of audiences can I build?
Right.
Um, and glad to hear that you've had a good experience using it so far. We're using all sorts of AWS capabilities under the hood, as you might expect. So fantastic options there within services like Bedrock to access models. So we built like the top layer
Mhm.
with if we've done it well, meeting our customers' needs. I think we've learned a ton of doing this already, and I'm sure we'll learn a lot more as we continue to iterate. But I've been very glad to see what I thought was the case is proved true so far is that having the really good content against which to train seems to be and so far has proven to be really important.
Yeah. Yep.
Because without that, it's like, okay, what are the models built on?
Right.
And what do they know? And they can be quite good.
Yeah.
But with specific domains
Mhm.
where like we have our own SQL language variant.
Yes.
We have certain things that work differently. We have hundreds of built-in fields that are our data dictionary.
Mhm.
We've invested a lot in that area, and wiring things together there is what's been challenging, and a lot of the challenge that remains.
Mm.
I think like media planning, marketing mix modeling. I mean, I think these are things where I'm seeing like really interesting AI investments. And I think it's not easy. Takes a lot of analytical skills. I think these seems like tasks that would lend themselves well to AI. Are there any
Yeah.
plans to incorporate any of those features?
Well, since I can't talk about future plans, but I will talk about things we've announced.
You can't share the roadmap.
Unfortunately not. You'll have to look at my LinkedIn and what I choose to post there, I guess.
There you go.
Um, I thought it was really cool at Unboxed last year, the stuff that we announced and what we're doing around creative. So didn't happen to know any of that before.
You found out we
Yeah.
That's awesome.
Oh, I mean, that's typical in Amazon because it's a big company and teams work siloed. And it's like, and I what I appreciated about those features is the same sort of spirit about solving practical problems. Like, okay, how do I take an asset that's designed for this aspect ratio and use it in a slightly different context?
Mhm.
Total practical problem. I've seen that myself. I know exactly that sort of problem. Something that, like I said, just, it's all about solving customer problems.
So I can't stop hearing about Performance Plus and Brand Plus. So these are the new AI powered
Yeah.
audiences. Everyone's saying they perform very, very well. It's very exciting, but they are admittedly a little bit of a black box, let's say. And then on the other side, we have, let's say, we have the AMC bring your own model, where you can customize your lookalike model and create audiences. And these are two different, I would say, ways to look at Amazon and what you're building. One is kind of black box. One is, hey, go ahead and customize what you want. How do you how do you see, how should people look at these two parallels and how you're building features?
So my coworker Brian Tomasetti, he posted an article a couple months ago in Ad Age that talks about
Mm,
just this problem, and I think he puts it really well. He describes what remains a bit aspirational, but I think signals like where we want to go of having a glass box,
mm.
something that you can see into, that you can understand, like what something's doing.
Mhm.
I think that is so important in building trust,
Yeah.
in getting genuine buy-in
Yeah.
from people, from organizations about using AI capabilities, machine learning capabilities of all kinds,
Yeah.
is being able to put it into words. Like, what is this doing? You don't have to understand every element of it. I mean, that's always true with tech is you don't understand each and every piece of it, but being able to describe it, have it be described for you is a really important thing. I think we're at the starting point here with the fact that like any performance plus campaign or brand plus campaign, you can analyze an AMC. So you can have your own, you can write queries, you can see how certain dynamics have happened. to at least get some insights on what are the shape of these things. There's more that we can do there to provide better tools, easier tools to help people understand what things can do. And there's things that we could do in the future, and I don't have specifics here to announce, but things that we would like to do that give people more controls,
Yeah.
more ability to affect things. And I'd say the starting point there is real, and that's where you can use your own signals to ingest and use data about your business, about your customers, in a privacy safe way that gives us a much better starting point. That gives those models things that they know, like, okay, these are the conversions, like the ones that you want, or these are this is what success looks like,
Yeah.
so that we can do better on your behalf.
It's interesting, though. I think, like, you look at Performance Plus, Brand Plus, or even you look at Google PMax, right? I mean, these are I think my opinion is, solutions that are using AI and ML to do things like bid management, creative optimization, planning. I mean, that's the future. There's no doubt. But putting on my agency hat for a second, you can see why those. I mean, historically, those are tasks planners and strategists are doing, right? So, I mean, does that does it jeopardize the FTE model mainly? Or have you heard anything from agencies? Any concern, or are they just embracing these things as they have to?
I've continually been unsurprised about how important agencies are and remain, and I suspect will be. When I first joined 6 years ago, I was learning everything about ads. Like, I had my own experience a little bit from the outside, but like I heard people talking then 6 years ago about just how much they thought that people were in-housing and going away from agencies. I'm like,
They've been saying that for 20 years.
I know.
Even longer, I'm sure, isn't it?
Um,
Since I've been in business anyway.
Given how much complexity there is built into the industry, as well as given the complexity of this tech, I personally don't see there being, the sort of huge shifts, at least anytime soon, as far as the need for having partners and agencies that help you. Their work, as you know better than I do, like, is changing all the time. What work they're doing. I mean, the growth of digital itself radically transformed what kind of work agencies did. It created new functions, it created new problems that need to be solved. And as revolutionary as the tech is here, I don't see evidence about it being, so different from other tech revolutions that have had impacts, no doubt. But agencies remain super important with ads. That's not in doubt.
I mean, I think it just helps. I think that Amazon DSP, there's so many different options, which I think is amazing. But it's incredible at each funnel type. You have so many different audiences you can use. And I don't think any one person knows all the capabilities of Amazon DSP. So I think Performance Plus and Brand Plus are probably just an easier way to be able to optimize your campaigns while also juggling all these different levers.
And, there's so many pieces of the problem here, like,
Mhm.
on the creative side,
Yeah.
on understanding what things are doing, on understanding where it's best to spend your time to differentiate. Because if everybody's just using the same things to optimize, it's like, okay, that doesn't, like, there still needs to be vectors against which people can stand out,
Yeah.
whatever that might be.
Yeah. Okay, I wanna talk a little bit about a specific, report type that I've seen everywhere. It's something that I've been presenting for a long time, the path to purchase. So, to explain to the audience, this what it sounds like. You can, view on an aggregated, level what a group of users, what their path to purchase is like. Maybe they saw a sponsored ad campaign, and then they saw a streaming TV campaign, then they saw a sponsored brand campaign, then they purchased. I think this is a very popular report, and I can't understand why. And I'd love to hear your opinion because every time I present it, the brand is like, "Cool." And what do I do with this info? I can't control when someone sees a sponsored brand ad after a sponsored product ad, right? Do you think this report is useful, or what have you seen?
It is useful, but I think you hit on the ways in which it may not be useful in the way that certain people want it to be, or think it should be. But there's value in storytelling
Mhm,
and in making something understandable,
mhm.
no matter whether it's actionable directly or not. I think. And a feature like that, and we built in now into the DSP, we use a out of the box path to purchase feature, so you don't have to even generate something in AMC, which makes that capability more widely accessible. It's great, and it's popular, I think, because it's it's tied to common sense. Like you can get some insight into something that might change your point of view. It might challenge an assumption you have and prompt you to make different decisions. So in that way, making it useful, that is the case for some people. Obviously not for everyone, but it might give you just a different point of view that affects your decision making, which can be very impactful
Yeah.
depending on what you were starting with as your assumptions.
Yeah. I think it was a good report to explain what AMC can do and just say, "Hey, we can not follow, but look at an aggregated level user's path to purchase." So it was very good to explain it, but very hard to action it in my humble opinion.
We've seen how important actionability is just
Yeah.
broadly, just like we didn't have data collaboration at the start with AMC, we didn't have audiences until even later.
Yeah.
And we've released that and we're building we've built and are continually looking at other ways that you can take action directly from AMC. Sometimes what you want is just to get an insight, and then your action is some things that's sort of outside of the tool, and that's great. But where we can address those needs of completing the loop or allowing people to automatically, send some signal somewhere else to cause some action, update some campaign, do something that can solve a lot more problems a lot more efficiently.
I guess on that topic, you release sponsored ads audiences. How did this release go? Was it as widely adopted as you expected?
The adoption's been really promising, and we're just now starting to hear from customers about what are they seeing that's working, that, is falling short, and as expected, it's sort of a spectrum. Just one example of something that we've seen is, seems really useful broadly is various kinds of high value customers,
Yeah.
and it makes common sense.
Yeah.
It's like, okay, who are my best customers? This could be people that like purchased through my D2C. And so I have that signal that I can bring into AMC and then bid against those people. It doesn't stop there. And I think especially when you're trying to get scaled use of this feature, like, okay, using that as a seed for a lookalike so you can reach far more people than you ever could of just reaching your return customers or trying to get business from them,
Yeah.
which might be extremely efficient but has limited scale.
For sure.
Those are the sort of use cases that are the clear sort of standouts so far. And I think we'll see more to come, both from like we'll have more conversation with customers so we learn more what they're doing and what they're seeing. But we're pretty happy with the initial sort of signals there.
Looking at AWS Cleanroom,
Mhm.
I know another technology but launched by AWS. I thought the announcement was a few months ago about AMC being available on ACR very interesting and potentially opens up some use cases, maybe even on supply side, right? Looking at you're creating seed audiences, maybe you can bring your own model. You can activate it in other places, right? Other channels. I'm here thinking right when I came out, I thought, wow, there's really cool application here. Curious if you can maybe comment on, what adoption you're seeing so far. What are some of the most popular use cases? Just your general
Yeah.
thought on it.
It's just to summarize like what we're talking about here. So AWS Clean Rooms is a service that's offered by AWS. AMC is now built on top of AWS Clean Rooms. So as an AMC user, you can today choose to create what we call an instance that's powered by AWS Clean Rooms, and that opens up a certain set of capabilities, like using AWS APIs to interact with AMC natively versus RESTful web APIs. This helps organizations that are very AWS focused, like just integrate it into their systems and use AWS services for like permissions controls, automation, uh, things like that that sort of are very natural for AWS centric organizations. And the other is I was talking about the technology powering like the data controls. A lot of customers, they trust AWS, and so knowing that they're using an AWS native service provided by them, not by Amazon ads, is important to help them confidently use the data collaboration features. So I think that that's one of the main benefits the customers are seeing, and certain customers that wouldn't have used AMC otherwise are starting to both explore it and use it because of those kinds of capabilities.
I have one last question that is near and dear to my heart, because I've been working with this privacy threshold for a long time. So when you upload or collaborate first party data, there's this user aggregation threshold of 100 users. So 100 users have to be doing the same thing to get any measurement outcome. And this is a quite high threshold, and I understand that it's a very conservative approach from Amazon to take this higher threshold. It makes sense because that is first party data you're collaborating. But I think it makes it very difficult for brands to get any tangible outcomes, especially smaller brands if they don't have a bigger D2C from this collaboration. So I think there's this rise of ad tag and CAPI. There's just that only has 2 user threshold aggregation as the normal AMC, collaboration method. So sales teams are now leading with the ad tag, use the ad tag because there's only that 2 user and we'll get more measurement out of that versus the uploading of the first party data. What do you think about this kind of difference? Do you see would you recommend a brand to use ad tag or use both?
It depends, and the we're always open to feedback about these thresholds. As you say, we always bias towards privacy, and so more our default stance is conservative, and it will continue to make those assessments over time. The reasons behind them it's quite complicated, but it has to do with like, well, how flexible is the source of data coming in? Like, is it entirely wide open or is it constrained to certain fields only? What processing happens in between with that data and what things can be, uh, uh, how can you ensure that certain things are not coming in through a certain signal source? These are all things that factor into those specific threshold decisions that may not be entirely obvious. And but the answer to your question, I think, is it depends,
Mhm,
and there's certainly use cases or reasons why an organization might want to use one or the other or both.
mhm,
That's one of the factors. Like, what's the nature of the controls? How sensitive is the data um, that we're dealing with? What sorts of systems are you okay with putting something into or not? That all factors in, and so using both, I think, is a totally valid scenario for certain customers, both because of those reasons and because of other things too
yeah,
that might factor in.
yeah, makes sense.
I've one more anecdote if I could share just around the clean roofs topic that's fun. So, on my LinkedIn, which I haven't posted in a while, I have a couple posts that might
We're going to be looking at your LinkedIn for product updates, by the way.
we're working on some things, so we're not reliant only on my LinkedIn for product, so more down there. I, at some point a few months ago, changed my LinkedIn title because I wanted to be more specific than just like Amazon or Amazon ads.
Mhm,
And so my title today, I think, is AMC data director, AMC data clean room.
mhm.
And so I then started getting ads about targeted at people who are in the hospitality space.
Oh, AMC, like the movies,
Well,
right?
no, because of the clean room,
Ah.
because people like a director of rooms. Which is a thing apparently in the hospitality or is close enough to it. So I continually like the ads I get targeted on LinkedIn are largely is ones from a company called Trayaway, who has a product that is like their pitch is you have a very nice hotel. Why would you have dirty trays in your hallways? And it's like something that helps signal that there's a tray out in that his hallway
I've never
and others for, like, cleaning products. So, like, these big, like, floor cleaning things,
Oh.
all because of the signal that I gave to LinkedIn that's interpreting it, a little bit differently than was intended.
Clean room anecdote as well. So I had a client called me up. This is a pharmaceutical client called me up a couple of years ago. I don't think this would happen today. At least I hope not. But he had he was his boss had asked him to go find a clean room for patient and HCP data, right? And then he got a proposal back from systems integrator, and he called me up and said, "This looks a little weird. I'm just gonna review this with you on my screen." And so go into his office. It was they gave him a proposal for a physical clean room.
Mhm.
Like you do M&A due diligence where there's like doors are locked and like
Yep.
palm print, like, that was a thing back in the day. I was like, probably
It
still
was a
is.
thing. There's the
Yeah.
clean rooms, like the semiconductor space of like putting on the bunny suits and going in. Yeah.
But he got a proposal for, I think it's $3 million to,
Oh.
to build a clean room. So I
Wow.
think we could do this a little cheaper.
Well, with software, we can do better than that. Yeah.
I'll share mine as well. So, I was actually we at my previous company, we did an event and we had a hat saying, "How clean is your room?" Just for more of a funny play on words. And I was actually doing a run club and someone said, "Oh, like, what is your hat about?" I said, "Oh, it's my job." And they said, "Oh, you're a cleaner." I said, "No, no, no. I work in the clean room space." Had no idea what I was talking about. But it's funny
Well,
how
all cleaners, if they're good, work in the clean room space. Yeah.
yes. Yeah.
Sometimes you forget how specific what we do is. I mean, and love your comments on this too, Alan. So first was Complete TV. It's a really cool announcement, and I kind of went under the radar. It was like a day of talking about it, and then
No.
crickets. So I mean, the description, I haven't used it yet, but the description was that it's a place that you can streamline and enhance the management of streaming television, advertising. What I thought was cool, in my understanding, correct me if I'm wrong here, is giving a place you can really do your plan your buys across both streaming and linear, which is, I mean, that's been a problem for a long time. So it's seems like a pretty cool announcement. Again, went a little bit under the radar. I think I mean, I'm curious to dig in and see really what it does, but I think this is beginning something huge. I mean, Amazon's been making such a big play for CTV. That's been part of the reason why Trade Desk stock has probably gone down the last couple weeks. I know that there's a big opportunity. They're starting to gain market share and there's a lot of great streaming inventory that they're putting on Amazon DSP. So I think it's one under the radar. I think I'm excited about it, and I think it should have been a little more in the news than it was. Comments?
I totally agree. I think I read there was, just an article about it, and it was the talk of our company. That's all we could talk about. And I thought it was interesting. I actually saw that you can see the top conversion paths across linear and
There you go.
TV.
Your favorite?
Exactly. And you can actually use custom dashboards and AMC. So they even included that in the complete TV release. So was your team working on this specifically, or is AMC just kind of always a foundational structure with these kind of releases?
So what's funny is I saw the announcement too, and I was like, "Wait, what's Complete TV?" And I had to translate because I didn't know that that was the external facing name of what they call the different project or set of projects
Right.
internally. And I quickly figured out, oh, okay, it's that project with that name that I've been engaged with, or my team has
Mhm.
been engaged with. And so yeah, we've been involved to do things like make sure that like there aren't any changes needed for data sets of certain kind to flow in so that you can analyze them in AMC. But I had a small moment of panic when I saw the announcement. I was like, "Wait, what is this? Why do I know that?"
Mhm.
That was why. It's a good name too. I really
I
like the
like it.
name. I'd be super excited. I am super excited for a lot of reasons, but like over time, I don't know where this is in the roadmap specifically, and it's not just an Amazon thing. It's a wider thing of like, as an ad viewer, I so want people to like have better solutions for things like frequency management.
Oh, me too.
I watch a lot of hockey,
Yeah.
which is pretty niche in the US.
Mm.
I will literally see the same ad 10
Yes.
times or
So
more
frustrating.
in one game, and it turns me off to that brand, whatever it is.
Yeah.
Uh,
After the third or fourth time, that's kind of enough.
Oh, yeah.
oh, it's plenty.
Just like the
And I now that I'm in the industry, I know more. I still am not an expert in every area, of course, but like I know more about why
Yeah.
that happens. And I would, as an ad viewer, and if I was buying media, I want the same thing of there to be make it much easier for me to have to reach people across different supply,
Yeah.
across all sorts of places. No person is just looking at, any one network or any one ad provider in terms of content. Everybody's all over the place.
Yeah.
And and anything that helps media buyers and ultimately uh, ad viewers have that better experience is great.
Yeah, I agree. So, one takeaway is use the frequency caps.
It's
If
huge.
it
It is, yeah. I mean, and I think that Optimizing for the ad viewer is so underappreciated.
Yeah.
I would love to see more innovation there.
Yeah.
Well, good. I mean, I think it's a smart move to roll this out. If we get more people on the planning side using Amazon DSP for their, streaming for all their planning and for their buys there, I mean, it's going to definitely drive adoption. So I think it's smart.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Alan, for being our first guest on the First Party Pod. It was really a pleasure to learn more about you and your work in the Amazon clean rooms. Yeah, this was a great episode.
Thank you.
Thank you.